I don't know. This is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, so I'll call the meeting to order. We have a 6-point agenda. Was it properly noticed? All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Also move.
I'll second it. Are you taking one? Okay. All right, motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so I am babysitting my granddaughter this afternoon at 3:45.
Oh.
She's coming here, so we'll have a visitor if we're not done.
How old is she?
She's a year.
Oh,
So she'll play on the floor and whatever, but just so you know.
No problem. Is she gonna stay for the next meeting too?
It's closed session, so I wasn't sure what the rules are on a 1-year-old.
I think it'll be fine.
I don't know, we'll see. Okay, it just wasn't ideal, but whatever, it is what it is. So, okay, so that brings us to, do we want to talk about the ordinance first, or do we want to talk about, like, I think talking about the ordinance while I still am less distracted
Yeah.
is probably the place to start, and then the DAPCAT discussion, which I think is a larger discussion that we'll probably need to just continue on with the new committee anyway. So I guess what I'd like you guys to do is
I have one of each here. One of the
catch me
cars,
up to
one of the
speed.
other.
So I read through the Hillsborough ordinance. And the first thing I noticed is that there was quite a number of things in there that I think we had talked about not including because they're covered in the DAPCAT.
Right.
Yes.
So it was unclear to me why we wanted the Hillsborough one, but please explain.
No, I didn't say we totally, we just like some of the things from it.
Okay, so we want to pull some
Yeah,
things from
I
it? Is
think that was what, is that what you guys thought?
What was discussed,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so I maybe didn't
Yeah,
communicate that well.
it was, you guys said that was the one you liked the best.
Yes.
Good example.
By the way, I didn't say that.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Right.
Okay, we'll take that back.
Consensus was.
Well, I just think there's some good things in there.
Okay, so give me 1 second then to pull up, because I didn't pull up the old ordinance, because I thought we were going to talk about the Hillsborough ordinance.
Okay, I got the old ordinance up here too.
Yeah, I just have to get it in my Word so that I can make sure I update the right document. So
Is this the one that I have here? That's the right one.
yeah, I just have to find the Word one so I can modify it while we're talking so that I can send it to
Whoever.
whoever.
I know, it's one of you two.
Okay, yeah, so it would have been the one that from January.
Yeah.
Because you
It's
didn't,
in our new,
you
it's not,
didn't make any changes in February? to
no,
the-
it's in our new thing.
Right, I'm looking for the Word version of it.
Oh,
so that I
gotcha.
can modify it. Okay, I've got it.
We didn't make any changes because once we read the Hillsborough one, we said,
Okay,
there's a lot of things we'd like to combine, and we said, this is gonna take, I know it's not too long, we can
Okay.
have a special meeting.
all right, so I've got the original one open and I'm opening the Hillsborough one right now. And so then if you guys tell me what you were thinking, what language you wanted to add. Yes. I can go ahead and do that. What language were you specifically?
Well, I
talking
think
about?
some of this we might have, I had a hard time today trying to compare them again.
Mhm.
So in section 7 of the permit duration, each permit shall expire on June, except the license is initially issued during, shall expire on June 30th of that year. Did we, I thought that was well written and I didn't realize.
No, so we had not made a determination if we were going
Yeah,
or with licensing, how long would it be a 1-year license, would it be a 2-year license? Would it be $100, would it be $50? We had not
Well-
determined that as of my last meeting with you guys.
go ahead. I'll be quiet.
Right, to that point, I have notes here we haven't covered yet, but one of them was, if we do a CUP, that stays with the property, if you have change in ownership. then-
It does. So the concerns that I had with the CUP is that one, it's $500. And if we wanted to make an exception for this, that opens up CUPs for exceptions for all sorts of things. So I don't think we want to go there. And I agree that it's 500 and that then it would be a lifetime. And yet
But my point is, I don't think we should do that because it's lifetime. As soon as someone sells a property, then
Does the CUP travel with the property? It does, right? Yeah. So I think we're to the place of the license. We want to issue a license. I think we were,
So we need to change our zoning ordinance too and include it. Do we want it in residential 1 or 2 properties? Do we want it allowed in there?
right. So a reminder to everyone, we updated our ordinance whenever this first came up, 2 years ago now,
Yeah. with
to
that.
include ag forestry,
Right.
ag residential. But we did not change the language in R1 and R2. Is that correct?
Right.
In one of them, and I think it's R1, it's allowed as a conditional use permit.
But R2 has no language.
R2, it's not.
So
We can change both of them, right? And
we could, I think they should all be consistent in my
yes.
opinion. If you're gonna zone one, I think would all be zoned.
So
Just-
in section 7 of 10, they have the non-transferable permit in the Hillsborough one, and I thought that was well written. So that would not be a CUP, but that says it's a non-transferable and shall expire upon transfer of legal control of the transferring housing property.
Yeah, I mean, I think we wanna not use the term permit because we're not talking about a conditional use permit, we're talking about a license.
Yeah.
So that we're
Yeah, we
separating.
can change.
So we can just change that
Right.
language. And we did have something about non-transferable in our original ordinance.
Okay, I
but,
gotta find it, I'm sorry.
So I have a question, Matt. In our county, do we have any R1s that are not zoned by a different municipality, that is county zoned?
Do we have any residential ones?
Well, we have R2s I know out and about in the county that aren't covered under like Richland Center or Viola's ordinances or Casanovia's ordinances. But we have all 4 types, and I assume we do, otherwise why would we
Yes.
distinguish it?
And I know we're zoning one, R1 coming up here. That was one that just went through.
Okay.
Wouldn't McCarthy Lane and those ones out there on 80, aren't they R1s? Because they're all houses right together.
Next in a neighborhood?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, yeah, so to me, it makes sense that,
And what about Turkey Glen? Is that R1?
I would have to check.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head.
There's on the other side of town, too, there's 2.
going north, there's a few neighborhoods
Yeah.
out there that would be, that are county zoned, not
Mhm.
Richland Center zoned. Okay. Okay, so. Okay, so making sure there's language in ours about non-transferable. So
Yeah.
Just do a search.
Where was that? I missed that.
Well, it also states in here too, the holder of any
Oh,
license shall promptly notify the clerk in writing of any transfer of the legal control of any property covered by the permit.
so
I think that's important.
if you go
Yes.
to section 5, short-term rental license procedure, in ours, not Hillsborough's, in ours, the very last item in that section, item F, is license is non-transferable, no refunds.
there you go.
Wait a minute.
So right before section 6, renewal, the line right before that.
Yes, it's in red, yeah.
Just a minute, I'm getting there.
So there it is, right there on the
Renewal.
screen.
Oh, yeah, license not.
Non-transferable and no refund.
And then, but we think that this has better wording or not, that holder.
Do we want to add language about the holder of any permit or license shall promptly notify the clerk in writing of any transfer of legal control of a permit covered by the permit? So essentially, we're wanting them to let us know when they're moving and then, so the
And also, I think if they add somebody else, just gonna use that they have a consortium and sometimes they might buy something with a new consortium or change it. So if only one name change, it says it's okay on here. You see what I mean? They don't start all over. Isn't that the way you?
As long as.
Yeah,
As long as they're the majority control of the entity.
yeah.
So you want to keep both those sentences. So starting with the holder of any permit or license shall promptly notify the clerk in writing of any transfer of the legal control of any property covered by the permit. A transfer of property to an entity or trustee shall not be considered a transfer of legal control as long as the owner continues to have majority control of the entity or are trustees of a trust with control of the property. That's a bunch of legalese.
Yeah.
However, such a new form of ownership shall be identified on any permit renewal application after such transfer.
And you're gonna change permit to license.
license, but yeah, so that's the language.
I like it, but I don't know about Steve or David.
I got lost. Where you at, Rick?
So now I'm in
Number
the,
10.
now we're under section 7.1210 on the Hillsborough document.
Hillsborough.
Yeah, so looking at adding, so the one sentence that we have that says license is non-transferable, no refunds, we would add the language. The holder of any permit or license shall promptly notify the clerk in writing of any transfer, the legal control, blah, blah, blah. And a transfer is an entity or trustee shall not be considered a transfer of legal control if they are blah, 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 blah.
If you're gonna capture that.
Yeah, I was gonna, well, if we want, if that's the language we want, I'll put it in there right now.
Ours also says non-transferable, but theirs also says and shall expire upon a transfer of legal control of the tourist rooming house property. I like that, but they understand that it totally expires at that point. We understand it's not transferable, but it also needs to expire.
Oh,
So I can just put that whole paragraph in there.
Yeah.
I think so. I think it's really well worded.
Yeah, that's when I
Okay.
start.
Got it. Moving it over. We want to keep the no refunds language in there, or does that not matter? I'm assuming this isn't like if they got it and then 6 months later they want to sell it, they would want a refund of their license, but we just want to say no to that.
I think we need to leave it in there.
Okay.
We don't have that in here stating that, but I think it's important if we don't want to give refunds, that it's actually clearly.
And we're not gonna make we're trying to do a license, so the license isn't so expensive as a CUP, so
Right. to
be more pro tourist.
Okay, and so I'm just gonna add the no refunds at the end of that, I guess.
No refunds will be issued, something like that.
Okay, got it. All right, so let's go back to the beginning of our ordinance for 1 minute here. In looking this over and watched our previous meetings on this, I feel like, section 1 purposes, we were all in agreement that it's good. Definitions, I think that the question that was left to answer is the Land and Zoning Standing Committee, what role the committee will play. So I'm assuming that the zoning administrator will be the person who gets the permit, issues the licenses and reviews the licenses using the criteria we've set forth in this. And that the only time the committee is involved would be when there's an issue? Is that?
Yeah, I have to find in the Hillsborough one, they go to the city council when so they would go, I think, to the committee.
If they're rejected.
If they're
or
rejected or if
or
they've had
Not renewal.
if
or
they've had
violations.
something with so many complaints from the sheriff.
Yeah, which I think we have in the due process section.
Okay,
But what my question here is, my understanding was that the committee was not going to review applications, that would be the zoning administrator's job.
right,
Okay,
right.
And it should be pertaining, I think, to the Natural Resources Committee.
whatever, yeah. But that's, I'll deal with that.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
You're right.
Whatever it's called. Okay, so what I'm gonna say under the land and zone, this is under definitions.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say the Committee of Richland County Board of Supervisors, the definition of the Land and Zoning Standing Committee in this document is the Committee of the Richland County Board of Supervisors responsible for due process. Isn't that how we describe it in the last part here?
yeah.
For reviewing complaints, for reviewing appeals, would be the appeals body of, how do we see?
And so we got an administrator, it's the committee is one that handles like appeals.
Yeah, will be appealed to the Land and Zoning Committee. So I'm just gonna say will be the appeals body. I don't know what's the right language. I guess the lawyer can probably figure that out for us.
Yeah.
Due process. Okay, so then we're gonna say the license, and I'm gonna delete the CUP language there. And for this, it will be whatever this ordinance is, the number of this ordinance would then be included in this. Okay, so the period will be from, what is the period we think it makes sense to go with the DAT cap expiration dates of June 30th? July 1st to June 30th, makes sense?
Yes. We want to make it just as easy for the person as
Yeah, when
possible.
they do it, they do both.
Yeah.
Right.
Consistency.
So the other question is, do we want it to be a 1 year or do we want it to be a 2 year?
Well,
I mean, it
I
might
think
ease
it's-
up the workload on our administrator, our zoning administrator, if we just had it for 2 years.
I know some counties go 2 years, like Adams, Marquette, they go 2 years.
And then you could even stagger it, so some group is this
Yeah.
year and some group is this year, like we do with our private septic permit or whatever,
Maintenance.
maintenance things we're required to do, Mr. Carter.
I'm trying to understand how big a workload that would be for a zoning administrator to issue these permits for every place once a year, once every other year. How big a job is
Well,
that?
we think there's maybe 70 in the county right now, so that would be 70 renewal applications yearly or every other year, or,
So I'm gonna ask a question. Why couldn't we just have a one-time permit?
well, that's true. I mean, it would essentially be setting up a CUP, but for this specific purpose.
Some of it's following up to see if anything's changed on it.
Well, that's what I'm asking. When we do renewal, what do we do? Do we just do paper? Do we literally go out to the place?
Oh, I don't think we're ever intending for the zoning administrator to inspect. That's,
That's
we're gonna rely on
that
that.
job.
for that.
You're gonna have a questionnaire with them, you're gonna do that too.
Okay.
Okay, what's changed? As, you know, is this still consistent? Is that still consistent? So, I mean, you're gonna be asking questions.
And would we also be asking if they're currently licensed with the state as well? And
Yeah.
Verify.
Get a copy of their
Yeah,
state
we
license.
should get a copy of it or something so that we know.
Because the state's supposed to be on site inspecting them.
Right.
So you're gonna get that documentation.
2 years sounds fine to me.
Oh, yeah, I was even gonna go longer, but 2 years is,
2 years, I think is.
yeah. And what, I had something to say now, but.
License. So I'll say it, the short-term license issued.
Oh, if there had been any complaint, it may not have come this far, but you might get a complaint and you aren't gonna say anything until it's a renewal because it's not a major complaint. Does that make sense, or, I mean, you might,
And that might be something that, the zoning administrator won't have to coordinate or talk to the sheriff about it.
yeah,
If you guys are getting complaints on these, or they have the list of them, if you're getting complaints on these, please forward them on to me too, or keep me in the loop.
yeah. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen, but that
Yeah.
way, if you got a problem, I mean, that's the whole point of the good neighbor policy that we're.
Well, and Ashley Oliphant's not here, but she sent me an email.
Oh, yeah, what did she say?
She, basically she's concerned about safety, nuisance,
Mm-hmm,
noise complaints, all that type of stuff. Off-street parking and keeping, their housing affordable in the city for
Yes.
residents. Those are
Yes.
4 major concerns.
so is she interested in what Hillsborough and stuff are doing?
Yeah, he looked
So
through
we can
that.
be consistent through the county?
Yep. So,
Good.
yeah, she was, she said, let me know what happens here, if get a copy of changes that we made, that type of stuff. So.
We discussed that at the meeting, Melissa, that we wanted to be working in cooperation with the city.
I mean, it would make sense to have these ordinances be as similar as possible, just because
Yep.
for the ease of people trying to.
Yes,
And fairness for, you don't want it to be different rules for people that are Airbnbers in Richland Center compared to,
Everywhere else.
yeah, so that makes total sense and I would agree with that completely.
Does the city have an ordinance at all for short?
I don't believe currently, no. That's why.
I think they're looking at it.
They're working on it.
Yeah. I'm assuming that they would want to adopt similar to where we're at, unless they want to be stricter, but whatever, I guess they'll have to decide. Okay, so then moving further on down that, so the license year, which is, so the license is the short-term rental issued under this, but then the license year. So I said the period from July 1 of each year to June 30 of the following year, but that's not actually right, because it would be the license issued, so I thought maybe we can give an example, a license issued on July 1, 2024 would expire June 30th, 2026. To make it clear to everyone that it's a 2-year.
sure, I got lost.
It was right below the committee, so I'm still in section 2 definitions of our ordinance, not the Hillsborough one, ours.
So it's short-term rental, is that what you're?
Under definitions A, I'm only on a license year under L.
Oh, got it, like the
Yeah.
period from, sorry.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how to say it, so we're gonna say license, 2-year license period, should I call it? To make it clearer?
Well, can I read you what Hillsborough has and then we can change
I
it?
can look, sure.
It's under 4B, license duration. Each permit shall expire on June 30th, except that license is initially issued during the period beginning April 1 and ending June 20th shall expire on June 30th of the following year. So they don't have to pay, you know,
For
Right,
that partial.
yeah,
partial. So I can just adopt that under,
yeah.
so I'll do that. I mean, we're just under the definitions right now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna,
But that's in a different place there, but that would fit that.
okay. So I'm gonna say license
Yeah.
duration. Okay. So then the next place where we had a question. I guess the renewal license language will change just slightly if it's a 2-year. I'll just make that language fit the 2-year
Yeah.
cycle. And then I had a note under short-term rental that says, add note that state calls it a tourist rooming house. And that was just more for clarity in case people are going back and forth between knowing what they need to do, looking up for debt cap. So I'll just add a note that says, FYI, the state calls it a tourist rooming house.
Well-
Don't call it.
I'm not saying everything's great on Hillsborough, I'm just pointing out some
Yep.
they did. Number 2, number 6 on definitions. And I thought that was,
Clerk means city clerk?
no, tourist room housing.
Oh, like we should define it?
Yeah, I thought that was a good definition there. Because it's not motels and hotels. And it's not bed and breakfast. Because they live in the house, so that's a totally different. I thought they identified it well.
So you want me to put the tourist rooming house means all, and actually just add that definition to our
Well,
definition section?
It's
If other
same
people like it.
definition out of the DAT cap
Okay,
guidance too. I think they just basically
They
copied
took
it out of
from
the
there?
DAT cap guidance.
it's up to other, I just suggesting that.
You're saying 5 and 6.
Yeah, or 6 for sure.
So it's a
Yeah.
rental of a tourist rooming house.
And 6 is, it explains all, what we're actually talking about is tourist cabins and cottages other than hotels and motels. In which sleeping are offered to paid tourists or transit. It does not mean private boarding or rooming houses not accommodating tourists or bed and breakfast establishments.
Okay, so I'm gonna just delete what we have for short-term rental and replace it with
Yeah.
what they have for short-term rental and for tourist rooming houses. Sound good? Alrighty. And then zoning administrator will be the, because I think I had that highlighted because we weren't sure what we were doing in the department, but now we've got that all figured out, so. All right, then under operation, what, yep,
Under the definition for zoning administrator, do we just want to mention that's who issues the license?
sure. That is responsible
Mhm.
for issuing licenses and renewals?
Mhm.
Or just licenses?
No, I think, right, and
Yeah, yeah.
might as well spell it out.
All right, and then we get into the operations. We had added, I mean, I think the idea was wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to understand where they need to look for information about getting all their licenses, so that's why we added that web address. We went back and forth on the seller's permit, but I think the last meeting I listened to, we landed on saying they had to have it.
Yeah.
And I'll delete the COP language.
So,
Yep.
On the seller's permit, that item 2, I don't know what that means. It says unless all rentals are exempt from such permit. But what's correct? Do we just,
Well, I don't know if a company, like an incorporation, is renting these out. Would they have a seller's permit, or would they have just a business TIN or something?
You know, Matt?
Is it a seller?
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know.
I mean, if it's an individual, they should have a seller's permit.
Yeah, that might be a question for someone like Mike.
I mean,
Would
Mike,
know.
and yeah, and Mike did look at this.
I'm just, if there's an exemption possible, we should know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I could put a note in here, ask Mike,
Okay.
Yeah, good idea.
what would an exemption be? Okay. And then we get to the section C, short-term rental shall comply with the following. So the last meeting we landed on 60 miles, but 50 was also one we talked about, and
It's been so hard.
I mean, I don't think it's unfair, like, people that live near Matt, like, I think in particular the
We had that one
Meisters.
couple, right?
Yeah, I mean.
Well, what's an
60
hour
to
drive?
50.
You know, is that what we're trying to keep it to, like an hour?
Oh, yeah, like an hour and a half, yeah, I mean, 60, well, from Madison, it's an hour and a half, but they're within 60 miles.
Hmm.
Depends on where you are in Madison.
Well, it also depends if they're up in, Viola, from Madison is not 60 miles.
Right, yeah.
Well, their particular case, they're south of.
I know where they were, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know, it's arbitrary.
It's so
Essentially what we want is to make sure that if someone lives too far away to respond in an emergent fashion, like if there was truly an emergency that they could
Yes,
be
that's
here.
the whole point.
Or if they can't, that they need to designate someone who can be here if there's an emergency. That's really.
I know I was looking at Adams and Marquette's, and they both have 25.
I know, there's a lot of them.
So
that
did
really-
Hillsborough have 25.
But, I mean, that's not even across the county. That seems stupid to me, because we can't even be from this part of the county and own something over here.
Right.
That seems. a
What
little
about, can we change it to minutes rather than miles?
Well, that's,
pretty arbitrary.
No,
yeah,
okay.
if I drive 90 miles an hour, I can get there.
That's right, that's right.
Well,
Legal minutes.
Miles is the better way to do it.
I mean, you just want people to be responsive, right? I mean, that was what our intent was.
That's our
is
whole
making
point
sure that
is-
they're responsive.
Responsive.
To go with what we said earlier about trying to be consistent across the county. Municipalities might have done, maybe we will get on the same page.
How many miles is it from from like kitty corner from one end of Richland County to the other? Anybody know?
How many miles? I know what it takes.
Yeah, from where I live to here is 21.
Oh, it's almost 30 minutes, 27 minutes for me.
So, yeah, it's,
Well, I know where I used to live in Gulf, I'd go out to Saban, it was a 40-minute drive.
miles.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah, you guys should know, because you guys get your per diems.
It's 20, it was 14 and a half miles for me from where I live, but it's 25, at least 25 minutes for me to get here.
When you're
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Lincoln,
Because I'm on
Casanova,
Yeah, no, that's why I was just kind of wondering miles, because I know you're tucked down in that corner, you're up in that corner, so.
but when you're going out to Casanova, it's a long way. I mean, it says like 30 miles or something up to.
Which is why I feel like the 60 miles is not that far outside of Richland County, and that seems, in my opinion, I mean, I don't care what you guys want to do, whatever.
I think 60 is a good place to start.
I mean, I think if
Decide.
it becomes a problem at that point, you
Yeah.
reevaluate it, and you're like, oh, this is not working, we need people to actually be closer.
All right, 60.
I don't know.
Oh,
You know, and I think they
What
do
do
the
you-
25,
Dennis?
because if you have like a complaint where you have law enforcement called, then they can get there in that time.
Seems like.
Or you have sewage
Does,
backup,
doesn't
they can get there in a timely manner, you know.
I mean, I get it. I mean, and I think part of the discussion also is we want to encourage local property owners
Mhm,
to, to benefit our local economy as far as,
mhm.
I mean, I think that was part of our discussion at one point.
Right, we didn't like outside
want
entities
someone from-
coming in and.
Yeah, because you don't want to encourage a leaky economy.
Yeah.
You know, let's consider that where your dollars are.
But I think 60 miles is fairly reasonable.
Oh, didn't we talk about the owner could be that, or I don't know, I mean, somehow that
They
we
can-
have,
they
they have an agent that would be closer.
Yeah, so the other part of this says that if they are more than that, then they must have a property manager. So if they're more than 60 miles, they have to have a local person that represents them, that takes care of any problems. And that's in the next section. Section 4 says, unless they reside within 60 miles, a local property manager must be designated for contact purposes. Well, you guys are gonna look at this again, Julie and Steve, so you can come up with that distance if you come up with other reasons why you think that distance should be different.
You assume we're gonna be on this committee.
I hope you are, because if you're not,
We're hoping you would chair.
I hope you're on it, because otherwise we'll have no institutional knowledge.
Right.
Like we've ended up with just Linda and I knowing last time, that was difficult as it
Very.
was, so.
Well, okay, I'm okay with leaving 60. It is a long ways, but Matt,
So it's C1. So number of occupants in any dwelling should not exceed what's set forth in Wisconsin code for hotels.
Are we on
Hotels.
Hillsborough or are we on?
No,
ours?
we're on ours.
Okay,
So, I just want to point out, we generally size septic systems on occupants.
yeah,
So that's a limiting factor right there, and that's been discussed.
No.
It's with the state DSPS people. They're like, should these be designed as commercial systems? Should they not be? They've gone back and forth. They've got a lot of pushback from, the VRBO industry. That's.
Yeah. Yeah, because like we had an example with the last one we
we had a
approved
problem.
was, a septic system that was for a family of 10 or whatever, probably less than that. Well, I think it was like 5 bedrooms though, wasn't it? So that would be,
Well, they wanted 18 people there.
but they were gonna let 18 people stay there.
Yeah, we didn't
But
know
the
how to.
discussion that we had, just to remind everyone, was, well, what if a family wanted to move in there and they had 18 kids? We would not go in there and tell them that they can't live there. Right? That's not the kind of oversight we're looking to be doing. So if we're not gonna tell a family that they can't do that, they have to modify their septic, then should we be telling the short-term rental owners that they can't do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're trying to be equal.
We're telling folks who add on to their houses, yes, you need to expand your septic system because now it's not gonna be big enough for what you got there, So, I mean, what's the difference with this? And these systems get used differently too, because you have, I just saw an ad on TV the other day. They said, you could pack 8 people in a hotel room or you could put them all in a VRBO. And I'm like, oh, that's the worst thing I've ever seen. Because they get used differently.
Okay,
They get pounded, because you have so many people there showering, doing laundry, doing,
Yes.
doing everything.
yes, it's a big pound.
Yeah, and I mean, it's dumped on all at once, and then they come back and they're gonna do clean sheets, they're gonna do all that stuff, so now you have all that laundry water going down there. They get a rest period, but generally, for a 5-day stretch or whatever it is, they're gonna get used really hard. So
But
that's
for the next 5 days, they might not get used at all. If it's not rented.
maybe not, but all summer long, it tends to be used hard.
Have some places, there's that concern back to back. Where are we at the
Yeah.
document?
It's section 3C1.
Yeah, the number of occupants in it shall not exceed the limits set forth. And is that code, are you?
That's
is that the-
That's code for hotels, motels, and tourist rooming houses, but they don't necessarily. I have that somewhere. But I don't think they necessarily, spell out the septic system issue. And that's where we see a lot of failures is in that,
So what are you doing in Vernon County with the agent on their septic, do you know?
she asks us, what's that septic rated for?
Oh, okay.
So we're checking that way,
So then if they advertise,
Yeah,
if Dennis advertised, it was designed for 4 people and he's advertising, I can put 8 people on this.
yeah, we got 5 bunk beds, rooms with bunk beds, and now you're getting 10, 12 people in there, That's where it gets a little dicey, you know what I'm saying?
So what do you think we should put down? What do you suggest?
Well, I would say, because there's a gallons per day on each septic system. That's why I think it should be according to the septic system, not necessarily, you know.
The septic system is sized to fit the house. If you've got three
Exactly.
bedrooms or 6
Yeah,
bedrooms.
yeah.
So if you
And
allow,
it's 2 people per bedroom.
that's just what I was gonna say, if you
Yes.
allow 2 people per bedroom.
Yeah.
Then if you've got basically a 2 bedroom or a 3 bedroom place, you're not gonna have more than 4 or 6 people
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
Legally,
Yeah,
that's,
and I like how in the Hillsborough one, they say you're supposed to post all this stuff.
Yeah,
what the occupants.
Yeah, and it's posted, how many occupants could be on it, or can be there, you
Right.
know?
I'm Dennis Fry.
Yeah, oh, great.
You're zoning?
he's,
Yeah.
he's our interim zoning from Richland County.
Okay, my daughter Jenny works.
Yeah,
with-
yeah,
I told him.
Yeah, okay. We have 2 small cabins on our property.
Mhm.
One's in Richland Township, one's in Rockbridge Township, because the line goes through our property. So, but that's why I'm here and I'm also on the tourism commission.
Okay.
With Marty Richards. So that's why I'm here. Interested.
Oh,
in-
so what?
Yeah.
Want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
If I could answer anything from that side, but I'd be
Yeah.
happy to. but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you know, you rent yours out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you see.
Yeah, our little cabins are basically 1-room cabins.
Mhm.
Okay. And they're made for 2 people.
Yeah.
That's all we ever have. I did see something up here that I was gonna ask about, and that is tents or something like that. We have on occasion had 3 people come and one of them wants to pitch a tent next to the cabin.
Mhm.
Okay. You know, you're gonna run into those
Yeah.
things, so.
Yes,
A lot of Airbnbs that don't allow that, like, you know, they'll say no to pitching of tents right in their descriptions and stuff.
Yeah.
Was there anything
No.
you need to change while you while?
So, yeah, I think we need to write something about the septic system there, because he explained.
Talking about
because
item
there'll
1
be a
on
number
section
of-
C.
yes, yeah. Number of occupants allowed.
All in language about septic capacity. What's allowed? What should
Yes.
be allowed?
Yeah.
Do we need a code number or?
Would be in SPS 383.
What'd you say, S?
SPS 383 kind of defines how you size a septic system, and that's based on bedrooms, a
Okay.
residential one. You know,
I'm gonna just put that in as a note and leave it to you guys to hash out.
So- Yeah, so the next one addresses the tents and the campers.
mhm.
I mean, we were essentially saying that we didn't want to allow that, because that increases the,
Because we had the wedding because we had a ton of tents.
I mean, the discussion we had, which you can go back and listen to, was that that would put additional stress on septic
Septic.
systems, and that we want to be careful that we're not contaminating our groundwater by, you know, having septic systems implode. But, I don't know.
So this is a case where, because essentially we're talking about rural properties as opposed to in a city where you wouldn't have that.
Correct. We don't have any, do we have any, would the R1s and R2s have municipal
No.
sanitary, or is it all private?
Well, there
sanitary?
could be some in Sextonville,
Oh, yeah,
That's on a-
they'll have their own sanitary.
yeah, they
so
do.
there could be-
So that is true. If they're on as a municipal septic, then it doesn't matter, right? As far as our concerns with the safety of.
Right.
Water-
So if we just have to put sized according to septic system,
Yeah. but-
less on municipal sewer.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I forgot about section buildings. Yeah,
That's the only exception I can think of. Goldham, everybody has their own.
right. I assume Casanova has their own. I don't think they have a septic system.
Well, they're.
City and Rockbridge have septic too, don't they?
You said Rockbridge.
Is Rockbridge on county zoning?
No,
They have their own zoning,
yeah.
Rockbridge would pick up.
their own zoning, so they would not be under this ordinance.
Yes, but I think the village of Bergen, Essex, and Woodbury of Rockbridge was not.
But they may adopt something like this.
Right, okay. So am I hearing anyone say that that item 2, no recreational vehicles, campers, tents, that we want to keep that language in there, or is that something that's still up for debate?
That's a hard one. I think no RVs because that is its own,
We certainly wouldn't want the RVs dumping into a private septic.
Right.
It's not allowed anyway, but I can see
right,
people
but you don't
taking the
want,
lid off
you
and.
don't want that. Like some people might wanna come as a couple and their kids sleep in a tent outside.
You
I mean,
know,
you know, what, is that a problem? Not for me, but I don't know. One tent, I don't know, is that silly? I don't know.
I mean, what if we base it on the septic? So if the septic can handle 10 people and 6 people are in the house, then who cares if you have more tents? You know, it all depends on the septic capacity. So
Okay.
you can have whatever you
right
want as
that
long as
way.
the septic capacity can handle.
So that could be no RVs, but, I don't know, what's a temporary lodging arrangement other than a tent?
I mean, I don't know if it would be sleeping under the stars. I mean, I don't know.
Catch-all phrase.
It's a catch-all, just, yeah, because someone
Okay,
might be
tents,
talking like, oh,
temporary
it's not a
lodging
tent technically, it's a
Shall be permitted if followed with the
If
subject.
septic capacity,
I was gonna say, exceptions can be made if the septic system can handle it, or something of that nature.
yeah, but exceptions can be made if septic is appropriately sized to handle additional guests.
Perfect.
I'm good?
Yes.
So are we maybe gonna pass this next week or you don't think so? You keep saying,
I don't think so. I think there's enough things
There's
to.
things we need to
No, I
look
think-
at.
oh yeah, you're
We
right.
have to have Mike look at it again.
Yeah,
and-
you're right, you're right.
Yeah. So I don't think,
Just get it written up where you want it and then passed on.
Yeah, without all the red stuff and all that, you know, just the way, yeah, okay. Okay,
okay, so then the next big chunk to really iron out is the short-term rental license. So do we want this to be on each individual unit of rental? Or would it be like one owner would have one license would be issued to that owner that might have multiple houses? I think we want it to be each individual, they have to have a license for each unit they rent. I think that's what we talked about.
yes, we
But-
had somebody that had the apartment building, right? That was
do, yeah.
asking us to not do that. But I think it should be each individual unit.
Okay, so,
You could have somebody, you talked about the 60 miles. You could have somebody that lives 40 miles away and they've got one place up there and one place down here. You don't want to issue a license that covers everything they own. You want
Right.
two separate.
license.
I mean, that's I think where we landed, but I just want to
Yeah.
make sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Carroll, are you?
Say it one more time.
Okay, so do we want an owner who has multiple units, whether they are separate, physically separate, or within one building? So like, for example, there's an apartment building where the person rents out multiple units on short-term rentals. So would that be one license, or should it be one license for this unit, one license for this unit? And I believe DATCAP treats them separately. I believe that is a separate, so it seems like we should just follow what DATCAP.
But, I would say, like, let's do whatever DATCAP says, although I would also argue that, again, it goes back to the whole septic question and anyway, yeah, let's just do what DATCAP says.
Okay, so I see. Follow. Procedure. Okay, let's see.
So what you're saying is if a person had a piece of property with like 6 little cabins on it, they'd need 6 licenses?
I believe that's how and I could be wrong, we could try to look it up. That is what we're saying, yes. Do you want to?
Now, I can
change that?
understand DATCAP wanting to inspect each cabin and make sure it's secure, but for our purposes, do we care? Or are we more concerned about the parcel?
So on something like that, going back to the septic thing, if it's 6 little cabins and I'm designing a system, I'm gonna hook them up all in on the same septic, all in the same drain field, you know what I'm saying? If I'm out there,
Well, the apartment building's gonna have the same septic as well.
right.
So is that the determining factor? Is if they have separate septics?
I have a question. Do you know about, I know it's not called Candlewood. Do they have separate septics, and do they have separate, because that would be an example here.
Candlewood?
Yeah, it's not called that anymore, but
down on 80, Anaway.
Yeah, Anaway Place, yep.
They don't, yeah, those are spread out far enough.
They're very,
probably
they
have
could be on the
some-
same septic. They're so far apart.
I'm trying to think, because I just looked at that. I don't know off the top
Yeah,
of
I
my
think
head.
this is gonna need.
Well, we looked into it because we had 2 rental houses and we had a tourist room on our barn because we built that. And we were gonna have 3 separate tourist rooms. We decided not to, we decided to just rent them out as regular rentals rather than make them 3 different ones because I didn't like doing the laundry. But it was gonna be 3 tourist rooms and they were on 2 separate septic systems.
I would think we do whatever DAP does as far as the situation.
Just to keep it consistent.
Well, how do we find that out? Can you check that out? Or,
So as data cap.
yeah, because I think Dale up there, he died, I think, up north of Sextonville, up that hill. What was the name of that place? You know what I'm talking about? He had 2 cabins there right next to each other. Dale, what was his last name? You know where I mean? You go up B, up to the top of the hill right before Penny Lane and to the right. And he had 2.
Mr. Carroll.
I guess another angle to look at this from is that in terms of, you know, the business model for the owners, if they have 1 unit and they have 1 license, that determines how economical it is. And whether you have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it doesn't change that ratio. So I don't see that. I mean, obviously you can earn a little bit more if you have 1 license before you can. You're not making it any worse.
Well, cost wise, I mean, it's a cost for sure.
Right.
Yeah, but presumably each unit is creating its own income.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
And they're not necessarily rented to people that know each other.
Right.
so it sounds like, I don't know, I feel like we need more discussion on that point, or do you think we can,
I think we need more discussion.
we need to? So the next paragraph has quite a few things. So the zoning administrator issue a short-term rental license if the applicant demonstrates compliance with the provisions of chapter of our county ordinance. Short-term rental license issued for 2 years, which I can delete that, and may be renewed biannually as provided in this section. So I'm gonna change that to 2 years for the license year. And biannually, I think we've decided on biannually in 2 years. Yeah, that's good for 2 years. Okay.
Technically, that'd be biennially, wouldn't it? Biannually is twice a year. Biennially is every 2 years, like
Yeah,
the
how do I
state's
say-
biennial budget.
It's an E, I think.
How do you spell it?
With an E.
Where's-
BIENALLY,
Oh, E-N.
I believe.
1 word.
Oh, it's all 1 word?
Mhm.
Okay, I got it. I'll spell check that. Okay. So that brings us down to section 5, license procedure, and I think that was just, what's read there is just changing clerk to administrator. And I didn't see, so is there anything from the Hillsborough that you wanted to add language into
They
this
have
section?
starred here.
With the one where it's talking about each application. With the following information. should
Each
be-
Yeah.
application shall include the following information, yeah.
The one thing that I like that Hillsborough has is, it says a copy of the completed state lodging establishment inspection form dated within 1 year of the date of the application. So how often do they have to get inspected?
I think it's supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be yearly, but I'm not sure that that's actually happening, is that, you own one, right? Do they come every year?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
They don't come every year.
They just reissue your license?
That's because we don't have.
But when they do come, they check.
Well,
every-
and that's what was discussed, that's.
Oh, we used to always
Anything else county, so
have to get, I forgot,
their staff
you
gets
go,
out
think you
there.
had to have,
Yep.
what was that, antiseptic, you know, and everything.
Oh, that's the difference with the DACF agent. We would have a person who was paid to do those things.
Yep.
Well, does that change any of the language in this section at this point?
It would just be another option. Addition to that.
Yeah.
We're
You
still-
want to add that to it and then you can, now, 'cause-
It'd be important to have that inspection sheet.
yeah.
Mr. Chair.
So we're still talking about the license itself, what needs to be information on there?
The procedure, yeah, we're under each applicant shall include the following information.
What do you think about, adding just a brief description? In other words, you know, the occupancy description of what it is.
You mean that they would provide a brief description of their rental, a brief description of their rental unit?
Maximum occupancy
Yeah.
for licensed premises.
Yeah.
Where exactly would you want me to put
Probably
that?
under 2A2.
Under 2, so copy of the state of Wisconsin tourist rooming house license. Let's see. So keep this information under 2 and add to it, or delete some of this information and put what,
Just add to
put
it,
what Hillsborough had.
add to it.
Looking at 4A, which is what's going to be listed on the license, and then
Right.
I was looking actually at B, which is the license procedure, and it says, you know, each application would have the following. So are you talking about the application or the permit would say that for both?
I think the application should say it, don't you?
Okay, so just so I'm on the same page with all of you, so you're looking at the Hillsborough ordinance, or looking at ours? Okay,
We're down on 5B and we're on,
I was just looking at Hillsborough's to see what information we want to add.
I was on 4A2, but.
Yeah.
but
Okay, let me go back to 4A2. I thought we were on section 5 already.
Yes, yeah, I know where to.
Yeah,
I just went past it.
oh, okay. Okay, so 4A2 is the name of the property manager with contact information, including mailing address, physical address. That's the section you're talking about, Steve?
Yeah,
Okay, and you wanted to add something to that?
just a brief description, and like Julie says, maybe the same thing under B.
90% on the floor. Okay, so. All right, now I got my hands. Okay, so under 1, I'm gonna say with a brief description of the facility, or what would you call it, the unit,
Unit
including,
occupancy.
you're on 4A1.
I'm on 4A1, yeah.
I don't care if you put A under 1 or 2, just somewhere under A.
Including a brief description
Of the unit
of the
and
unit and capacity,
maximum.
Maximum?
occupancy allowed.
maximum what allowed? Capacity,
Occupancy, yeah.
occupancy. Okay, got it. And then do we want to repeat that? I'm hearing you say do you want it under the license procedure as well? Or is that where we wanted to include some of the Hillsborough ordinance?
Well, it almost have to be under the license part to be able to put it on the permit. Because if you're getting the application, you know, there must be a section where they have to fill in all
Yeah.
of that. And then that amount would be put on the permit, and then the permit has to be displayed.
Yes.
And in that area, they would write whether they would allow 1 tent with 2 occupants or not, if they're describing what their place is.
Right,
Right.
okay.
It should also have on there what their maximum is.
Yeah.
And what the sewer max
Mhm, yeah.
is. and sanitary.
So let's see. So now I'm on section 5. Part B, right?
Yep.
So we've got the contact information first. Is that where we want to include the additional and just add more points or? And then the point 2 is a copy of the state Wisconsin license, a state of Wisconsin tourist rooming house license. 3 is a designated property manager, and 4 is written certification. So what we're saying is we want, because the Hillsborough one just lists it out separately. So we have
Yeah.
name of property owner, contact information. They just have theirs bulleted out, each of those things. But the information that you want that's not there would be
You wanted the description?
the address of the tourist room.
That would probably go under one.
Okay. So let me grab that language. So what I will do is once this meeting is posted, I will watch it and make sure I'm capturing everything you guys are saying. I think I got it all.
You're doing great at multitasking there.
So I think I can just add it to B1. I
Right.
can add
Yes.
the language, you know, a brief description of the unit to be rented and maximum occupancy allowed. Can just be added to that language down there, just to reiterate that it must be present on the application. I'm assuming our application will have a line.
Yes.
Have a line for that. Okay. Other things in that section?
And then is that where you added that inspection form?
I haven't added that yet. You want me to add?
I like that. I don't know what everybody else is.
So let's see. So that would be,
I could hold her.
she's okay. She's playing. She's just being a little loud.
That's all right. She's having fun.
Let's see. I do apologize. It's just, I couldn't
No.
do it, so.
Life is.
This is why I don't want to be in the county board anymore. So I can do this instead of this.
It makes it all real.
Yep. Okay. So you want, I'm sorry, Julie, can you repeat that? You wanted it to include the state of Wisconsin license
The inspection report.
and inspection report. Is that in the Hillsborough one, or I just need to
Yes.
add that? License certification,
What
address.
page that I read that.
Page 3. A copy of the completed state lodging establishment inspection.
Oh, got it. Yep, I found it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so I will just include that as another bullet point. Does
Yes.
that make sense?
This one says dated within 1 year of the date of application, but I would think it's just gotta be the most recent
Well, that's why it's one.
inspection.
I think each year when they renew your license, do they automatically check you off as an inspected? Like, how does that?
I don't know how they do it on their end. I know they don't.
They just
inspect-
send you a license saying you've been
They
inspected.
don't inspect every year.
Yeah.
And they give you a list of a couple things like that you have to do or whatever.
So I suppose it could be most recent. would
Most
be-
recent.
Yeah, because we can't tell the
We
state.
can't,
Yeah.
we don't know when the state is gonna do the next
Inspection form.
inspections, and it's just
Most
gonna be their most
recent.
recent, that's all they have.
Okay, so we'll just say most recent inspection form.
I just know how our county does it. I don't know how the state does it. I
Uh-huh.
feel like they do a lot of rubber stamping.
Completed state
but,
lodging inspection.
No, we'll go out on, like Anna who's here, we'll go out on, she'll have a list of stuff that they need to correct, like safety stuff, railings, this type of stuff.
Oh, sure.
So, smoke detectors.
Okay,
Well, they list
All right.
that here, but that's all in the tourist thing room that they have to have it.
okay, so I changed the language to a copy of the most recent completed state lodging establishment inspection form. Seem reasonable? Okay. All right. So that brings us to what?
When the zone determines that, that's all just,
Brings us to 5C, doesn't it?
It does, unless someone has anything else under B. All I had was changing code to ordinance, clerk to administrator, that kind of stuff.
We need to add that the license or license or however we want to phrase it, it needs to be displayed.
That's done.
It's down below, I believe.
and C, you have to change that to 2 year, right?
Yes, so run 2 year.
Agencies that displayed in the permit.
Okay, so then D, all I've got is changing clerk to administrator. And E, let's see, outstanding fees. Oh, so we did have quite a long discussion about
Yes.
this one.
Back on C,
Oh, yep,
we went to biennial, right?
yes, so I changed that. Yep. Yep. All right, so under E,
And Hillsborough has a lot written about that somewhere.
so what I have is, which I think is what you guys have on the, yeah, so what we, the language we added at the last meeting was, if there's something, oh, this may be a factor in whether or not we approve your application. That was where we landed last time. But if we want to change that.
I know I read that over here and in the circles.
You had,
Oh, yeah, D on sorry, go ahead.
no, that's right.
On 12D, I think, isn't that it? May refuse to issue new or renewed rooming house, tourist rooming house permit for any property or owner that has violated this chapter anytime within a period of 12 months.
That was in Hillsborough's?
Yeah, to the date of permit out, and if the property has had 3 or more calls for law enforcement in 12-month period. I don't know if that's good, but
I mean, it might be good to have it defined, and that
Yeah.
makes it easier for the committee to know what to do. On the other hand, maybe we want discretion. I don't know.
I think by having it spelled out, it's more consistency.
Yeah, because you don't want to be accused of being lenient on one.
Yep, yeah.
Okay, so what was the section in Hillsborough
I
again?
think it's 12D, right? So that would also be the zoning administrator with the, something with the zoning, with the whatever we're gonna be called. Because they would take that to the
Natural resources.
Natural Resources Committee, whatever.
Okay, so I'm taking all that language from D and putting it in that section and delete what we have there. And because we're getting rid of the fees, taxes, special charges, forfeitures, and just delete that and enter in what Hillsborough had.
I think so, but maybe other people don't agree.
Well, this is talking about if they violated the.
Yeah,
basically this
it
chapter
doesn't have the
rules.
fees, taxes, there's special, we
It
should.
doesn't talk about if they haven't paid their property tax.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
know
that's
that.
Well,
Two different things.
Right, they are two different.
So add to
they
it,
don't follow the rules for some reason, or they get too many law enforcement calls, or they have.
Maybe this should be another, just another,
I'll add to it.
yeah,
Was what you're saying is add to it.
yeah.
Okay,
So
got it.
there'll be a G of all these.
Okay, that sounds good.
Someplace you had something about a provisional permit or provisional license. Did I see that? somewhere?
That's on E here.
But I do have a question. It says if the applicant or short-term rental property has, oh, it's the property or the applicant. So if they have a outstanding speeding ticket they haven't paid, then we have the right to. That's basically how this reads. So that's just what my question is.
Well, that was why we put in there that it may be a factor, not that it will be a factor.
Property taxes, I definitely can see if they're not paying the property taxes on the property that they're trying to get a license for.
Right.
That's definitely should be a reason. for
Although-
denial.
Although if we allow them to rent it out, they would hopefully pay their.
That process went through my head too.
At least it gives us that.
We should at least have the conversation,
Discussion without-
like, yeah, are you gonna, is this gonna make you become a responsible property owner?
Right.
You know,
Well, I
I'm
think
just
it,
wondering about the outstanding fees though. whether
I think that could be pertaining to that property, not
It
something
says
else.
the applicant or the short-term rental property has outstanding fees.
Oh, yeah, you're
So
right.
It's the applicant.
You're right, you're right.
yeah, I don't know what fees we would be talking about, like, if they haven't paid what? What are their
She
fees?
said like a,
Well, what if they haven't done their, like, the fee for their septic? But then we go after people that don't do their septic, so it's not, we don't need to worry about that, that's done separately. I don't know.
I just.
I mean, that would
want to
be-
make it clear what
yeah,
that's.
so-
So
that would be-
It's not gonna give them a permit.
But what I'm saying is, what if they are trying to rent out this unit and they haven't done their septic inspection, so they have a fee charged against them or a
Well, that-
ticket or whatever it's called?
They probably should have their septic inspection done because it's a, you know, heavier use system, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they shouldn't get their license if they don't.
So, yeah, so that's not necessarily bad.
That's why I said if it's fees, taxes pertaining to that property would be that. So wouldn't
get rid of the
they had,
applicant. So why
they
don't we just
stopped
have-
with the speeding ticket.
Tie it to the.
It wouldn't have anything to do
Yeah.
with it. It just
why don't-
tied to the property.
Why don't I delete the word applicant?
Yeah, I think so,
If
because
the short-term rental property has
Because it's more.
outstanding fees, taxes, or special charges or
Yeah.
forfeitures.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would cover whether or not the owner is there or if there's an agent that's
Yes.
taking care of stuff. It's all tied to the property.
Yes.
Yeah, or it's in a trust, you know, you're not gonna go and look and dig
How
into
old is-
everybody's
right, the
trust.
way it was written. it was
What?
old.
Yeah, right.
She just turned 1 year.
Okay, so she
She's
just walked.
not quite brave enough to walk.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, so that brings us to. That brings us to. So that would be, so I changed the language, I deleted applicant, so it's just short-term property rental. And then I added language about from the Hillsborough one.
Yes. So
Um,
there'll be a G here.
I just added it to the end of A.
Oh.
Do you want it to be separate?
No, it's okay.
I mean, it kind of all goes together.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so that brings us to no short-term rental license shall be issued if the property is found to be subject to one of the grounds for revocation as provided in section 9.
Slow down, give me a number, where you at?
So I'm just right below where we were, so I'm in E.
5E.
Yeah, the letters change when I add and delete things, so
Oh,
I can't tell you
yeah.
exactly, but yeah, that's where we were. So the next section would be the section that was added. So go down a little bit. Procedure, name and address, I got that. Tourist card. So the last thing I have is the right before section 6.
That license is non-transferable.
Yeah,
I think we
And
should
so-
have
so I added-
that up above too.
yeah, so that's where I added the Hillsborough language. So what we now have, instead of what's there now, which is the license is not
Yeah.
transferable, that's where I added the Hillsborough language.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to go. So that brings us to 6, and here we are,
Oh, Madam Chair.
yeah,
I didn't hear, did you, under E, did you change that reference of 9D to 9B?
the revocation language. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
To not.
Grounds for revocation is provided in, I think it should be 9B instead of 9D.
Revocation actually is, used to be D, and it's crossed out and it says C.
But
Well, I think we could wait until this all flushes out. I'll put a question mark to make sure we reference the right one, because as I delete and add things, it changes the
Right.
lettering. So I'll just put a note, check reference
yeah.
when it's all said and done. Okay, got that. All right, so that's non-transferable, that language we already decided on. Okay, so we are doing an annual license for renewal, so I'm gonna delete that question that's there. Okay, and so we will obviously change. Where does it even say that it's good for 2 years? Is that in the next section? I guess we don't even say how long it's good for because it's defined above. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we don't say in the renewal section, section 6, we don't say that they need to renew every 2 years anywhere. So.
Why should it after the word renewal say every 2 years?
If you put it in twice and something changes, you gotta change it in 2
That's
places.
true. That's true.
If you put it in the,
Although we just want to make sure it's clear to everyone
Yeah.
how often they need to renew. So is repeating it more often helpful?
Just have to change the biennial review.
Biennial, right?
Biennial review.
BIENIAL. There we go. Got it.
Good idea.
There you go. We got it now. Okay, so other than changing clerk to administrator, is there anything else in section A that needs to be dealt with? Or section B? Okay, I'm gonna say, I assume silences were good? Or do I need to give you a minute?
And I think I'm okay. I'm just reading.
Okay.
I think that's good. What do you guys think?
Oh, she's doing a pull-up.
Stronger than us. Sit up and pull up together.
Oh, goodness gracious, Ella. Yeah, you're cute. Okay, Steve, are you good on that A and B of that, of section 6 renewal? Yeah. Okay, so then we get into the standards. Now here, I think we have made some, we've mucked around with these above,
Yeah.
because we've talked about, I mean, here again, we're talking about the number of occupants that are allowed. So we'll need that to match the language that we decided up above, right? So do we know what we want to say here, or should I just look back and try to match it? See, what section was that? Oh, here, so on C, this is 3C, we say the number of occupants in any dwelling unit shall not exceed the limits set forth in the administrative code. And add language about septic capacity, what should be allowed, SPS 383.
Yeah,
So
because we don't,
why are we repeating it
Yeah.
again down here? I guess
I don't know either.
we need it though? I guess here we're specifically gonna write in more detail about the standards? Is that what the deal is? Because this is where we talk about parking and the other kind of good neighborly policies that we had talked about. No, you cannot touch my computer. No.
Well, can you just reference under 1, reading 3C above or something? Can you do that rather than repeat it? Or that-
Yeah, I'm just wondering why we're repeating ourselves, I guess. Do we
Yeah.
want- Maybe the up above should just be C section 7(1) and reference the details down here, because this is, I think, where people would read the details about what our standards are, right? And how we would
Okay.
enforce, would be
That makes
based on
sense.
this section.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about 2, the parking language? Yep,
Delete section 7 altogether, or move the parking language up there with the rest of these things under 3.
what is the 3 section called again?
Section 3 is operation of short-term rental.
Oh, yeah, so why do we have 2 separate sections? We could put them all together. I don't know if there's a legal reason why you'd want to do that. I mean, I guess we could put them together and see if there's any.
Yeah, because it does seem repetitive even on this other one too.
Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
move, so I would essentially be moving.
The parking thing up above.
Yeah, it'd just be basically the parking.
Move to section 3, right?
Yeah, because we've got
Yeah.
number 1 already covered.
Number 7, 2, you're gonna move up above, right, to 3.
As long as it says that it's comply with the chapter's requirements and any other applicable state, county, and local laws, codes, rules, or regulations. Does it actually state all of that?
So, did we decide we're not gonna do anything about noise hours? I don't.
So we can't because, well, I don't think we should unless we have a countywide noise ordinance, and then we
Oh,
should just
yeah.
reference. We should just reference the noise ordinance.
She'll
It's okay, she can't really do anything on there.
No, it's fine.
So I think if the county wants to have discussions about having a noise ordinance, that would be countywide, not just for short-term rental people, that would be okay. But I don't think we can include any language about noise in here unless we want to impose different standards for our short-term.
Yeah, because obviously Hillsborough must have an ordinance in the city about the 10 a.m. to 7.
Yeah.
10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And maybe Richland Center has one too, but that was one that,
So you guys could do something with that, but I think it has to wait until
yeah.
you have a noise ordinance. Okay. So I moved, just to make sure we're all on the same page, I moved the language about parking up to section 3C. And then let me go back to, hold on one second, let me just make sure I'm doing this right. And because there's only 2 things in that section, and one of them was already up above, so now we've just moved that in, I'm gonna delete this entire section.
What about A though? That sentence that says.
Oh, the language?
Yeah.
So we could include that language above, as a descriptor above section 3.
Right.
So, hold on, let me go back to section 3. 3. No person may maintain, manage, or operate a short-term rental more than 10 nights each licensed year without a short-term rental license. Every short-term rental shall be operated by a property owner or manager, and then I could include, and then it would say each short-term rental shall comply with chapters, requirements, and any other applicable state, county, or local laws, code, rules, or regulations. Each short-term rental shall comply with the following standards, and then we go right into B with all the standards.
It's much better to read like that. Now you got it.
Okay, was that what, did I capture what you want?
Yes, but I thought maybe you'd put it at the top of 3 where it says operation of short-term rentals. And then
Oh, just put that descriptor there?
Yeah, and then put A, B, and C and all
Sure.
below it.
I can do that.
One-handed.
Okay, yeah, so now I've got it where it says operations of short-term rentals, and then it goes into each short-term rental shall comply with blah, blah, blah. And then it goes right into A, no person may maintain, manage, and then B has all the other rules. Yeah, Mr. Carroll.
Okay, on the parking, you
Yeah.
move that up.
I moved it up.
I think we should radically reduce the wording.
Right, it is really wordy. I mean, we took it directly from the
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
previous one.
You just say something to the effect of, do not block or impede public roads.
Okay.
I didn't have this in here. It isn't really long paragraph. And if I'm reading through it, I'm like, oh, what is this? I'm trying to say.
Try your best to get into that.
You don't want it to be too wordy where people actually read it.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's see. We want to,
Quotient rounded up to the nearest whole number.
Divide by 4 and.
okay, so what we want to say is what? So right now it's very long. So do we just want to say minimum number of on-site off-road parking spaces shall be equal to the short-term, blah, 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 blah. Let's see, what do we want to say?
Do not block or impede public road.
Or short-term avoiding a private road. Or driveway, no parking spaces. I'm just looking to see if there's any language in here. So I just really basically just want to say, you need to have parking and it can't block public roads?
Places that we've rented when we travel, they always have a designated parking area, whether it's
On-site or
either on
off-site?
their site or on the street. They say this is where you need.
So I think what we're trying to avoid is someone parking on a road that blocks public access or blocking someone else's driveway, right? I mean, that-
Emergency vehicles.
an emergency vehicle.
Yeah, I think that's why you have to have designated parking spots because the ambulance and everything has to get in there.
So what do you think? We should say,
What is the wording for that, Cap say? Or is that what we took this from?
no, I think
this
this
is
came
from
from
that
the
other-
first ordinance that we.
That
did.
ordinance from that other township.
Well, there's already laws about where you can park and where you can't. The sheriff's gonna deal with that. If you're talking about houses, in my opinion, you should just have a designated space or area that they're supposed to be. If they park out on the road, that's something law enforcement's gonna take care of. Your ordinance doesn't need to have the same stuff and duplicate and.
Okay, so. I mean, I think that's how come they got so wordy is because they were trying to capture.
Yeah.
So essentially we want to say what?
They should have
Must have on-site parking or off-street parking that doesn't block.
designated
That's
parking.
Must have
Some places it can't be on
designated,
site, it's gotta be on the street, but
Right, but it's a designated parking space.
designated parking that abides all laws.
Yeah.
Is that what we want?
Yeah, on here it also talks about the minimum number of on-site spots, so I don't know if that's kind of referring back to the number of people that are allowed to stay there, or
Yeah, and they got a formula
Oh my
here, and
God,
it's
it's
a
crazy.
little confusing.
yeah.
Is that DACAP or is
Rounding
that?
up on,
One
no,
current one.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
rounding up the bullshit.
I know.
All right,
I know.
hold on here.
So she would be a fourth and then you run two of them, a half. And
All right, so what I have right now is must have designated parking that abides all laws. Is there something more detailed we want to write there?
That's good enough.
I think so.
I mean, Mike might have something to say
Short and
about it.
sweet.
Mike Window.
Yeah, I
might have
guess
something
I
to say.
have it added a little bit or whatever.
Yeah,
but
whatever.
want
It
short
gets
and
to be
sweet.
a problem, some of the lake counties where you have the small lake lots.
yes,
They don't have
And
enough
they
room.
park up and down the street and they're.
right.
Yeah. So that's where that gets.
It's not important papers, is it?
No, well, it's county board stuff, so it's gonna go get shredded. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that, and if you guys wanna talk with Mike Wendell about that, if there's more that needs to be added. Okay, and then, so now we get to,
Display, we should have that,
Yeah, that one we did talk about.
right.
um,
That's also.
so that, we wanna add that to this section, correct? It's not in here already that we have to display the license?
Yeah, number 8 is display of the permit.
Which section are we in now?
We're on 8.
We just finished, that parking thing was on 7.
Oh, okay.
7-2.
Yeah,
Okay, oh, display, got it, we have a whole section. for it. Oh.
Yep.
Got it. Now I'm with you.
Just wonder if maybe that should be up where it talks about the permit though.
I mean, it could go anywhere, it's just one line.
Right.
Because we're getting rid of 7 that got moved.
Mhm.
So that would be,
Yeah, so it's probably fine.
and then appeal,
That, didn't Mike go through this already?
he went through, but I think we've made a number of changes since the last, well, no, I think he was at the last meeting when we made some of these
Yeah.
changes. And so any of his comments would be in that meeting, and I would have changed, before I sent this to you the last time, I made
Yeah.
the changes that we talked
Yeah.
about at the last meeting with Mike. So he was okay with this appeal process, so unless we're not okay, you can leave it alone.
The only thing I would say there is 9, it looks like, used to be C, now is B. 1, where it talks about failure of the licensee to make payment of delinquent fees, taxes, that were again there. It's talking about the licensee making those, so maybe it should be stated on the property.
Failure of the license of.
Where is that, a B?
Yeah, it's on the new fee, so it's 9, an A, and then B got stricken, and so C became B, and then it's number 1.
I didn't delete anything under 9, what do you mean? Because 9 is appeal of licensing decisions.
The added C, I think, is what happened.
I don't know, the one I'm on, and there's A, and then there's B that's, I have to strike through it.
That says the zoning administrator's decision.
No, that's not gonna be striped, is it?
That, yeah, well, there's a strike through it, and then B, or C down below it has a strike through it, and now it says B.
Really,
I think you're looking
that just means all that's A now.
Oh, is that what that was? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, it's on B and then 1, where
Yeah.
it says failure by the licensee to make payment of delinquent taxes, fees, special charges, forfeitures, all that goes to the county. So again, like we changed before,
Property.
it was just relevant to the property, not the applicant.
so you just start out with delinquent fees, taxes, special charges, forfeitures, and other debts owed to the county on
On the property.
yeah, or just failure to make
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, but
Take out
we're
any
just trying to
description of-
say it's
So
not,
make
not
it
the
clear
applicant.
that
It's on
Yeah, that we just make sure that it's clear about that it's.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do a quick time check. It's 4:30. There's a county board meeting at 5. If we want to talk about DAT stuff today, or do you want to just hold the DAT stuff
Let's-
for?
Do you
meeting
mind
on Monday?
finishing this, or is that all right?
I feel like we should finish this, and then the DAT stuff we could save.
Yeah, for Monday.
It's on the agenda for next week.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was the one that pushed having on here.
No, that's entirely fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we need to change the language in 1, right? Because we were attaching it to the property, and here we're talking about a person.
Licensee, yeah.
Yep.
So,
We just want to make sure it's not both, like before it was applicant and the property.
yeah, so, I mean, licensee infers for this property, right? Like, but I don't know how
You
you
can
want to.
state on debt or other debt owed to the county,
On
on the
this,
property.
on the rental property?
yeah, on the rental property.
Licensed property.
Licensed rental property.
How did my,
Did you lose it?
no, somebody hit a button and so it wasn't registering the track changes.
Yeah,
Someone hit some button just on accident there.
yeah.
Don't know who that was.
Thirsty.
Okay. All right, so I changed 1 to include on the licensed property. Owed to the county on the licensed property. Okay. Anything on 2 or 3 in that section that needs? That would bring us to revocation as the next section. And that's where, and Mike did look over this process to make sure we were good about where it comes to land and zoning first, and then it goes. If they wanted to appeal beyond that, it would go to the county board. All right. So does anyone have anything under judicial review? I think all of that language.
Right.
So I think I should go back and listen to that last meeting, because I thought he did review this, but it wouldn't hurt to have him review it again.
Well, I would assume when you make all these changes and we get kind of what we think is a pretty good.
Close.
He would probably review the whole package.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he should come to a meeting and go over it with you guys to make sure that this is obviously before it goes before the board, to make sure it's what we want.
Review it before the meeting and then give us any recommendations or anything at the next meeting.
Okay. And then the penalties, I think we would reference a fee schedule because now zoning is, so we don't have to keep changing the ordinance when fees change. We're just gonna have the
Yes.
county will have a fee schedule. Mr. Carroll.
Sorry,
No, go ahead.
B,
Yeah.
does that need to be in there? It seems awfully widespread, vague.
The penalties set forth in the section part
Yeah,
shall be in addition to all of the remedies of injunction, abatement, and cost. I don't know. I think that was Mike like that language, but I don't know. I could put another ask Mike in here if this is necessary.
and then the word in isn't in my copy, in addition.
Penalties set forth in this section shall be in addition. It's not in mine either. In addition, and I'll put a note here to ask Mike. Ask Mike if necessary. Okay. And then that brings us to fees, which they're gonna have a fee schedule, so we don't have to keep doing it in ordinance. Oh, and then that note on the bottom. Okay. Yeah, so. Oh,
Right,
do we,
because
oh,
we're gonna have that, if they're already doing it, they have to still come back in and sign up.
so one thing I do think we should add, I think it would be good to add language saying they are required to list their license number for Richland County on their Airbnb listing, which is what they do in Hawaii. That way, our administrator could easily go into Airbnb and, as far as us being able to try to track
Yeah.
people, it would make their jobs a lot easier if we required that.
What was the exact?
So they would have to post whatever license number we give them, they would need
Yes.
to post it on their listing
Okay,
so that we would be able to go into Airbnb and just type in Richland County, and anyone who pops up, we should be able to click on that listing and see the their license number to know that they are appropriately licensed.
So
and
where do we
operating.
put that in
That
here?
language would be under 3, operation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Make sure it says county license.
County license number, yes.
So we can't require them to have their Wisconsin listed there either,
Well,
or it's not.
I mean, they have to have a Wisconsin one in order to get ours. So, the ones that I saw in Hawaii were county numbers that were, I don't know if theirs is different if they have the state and then a county, or if they have like an agent system, I don't know, but I just know that it was, I think that actually, your partner in Viroqua,
Yeah,
yeah, she looked it up, and she said it's not a state law to have it listed on the website in Hawaii, so it's a county ordinance that requires it to be listed on the
Is
list.
there a place where, for a license number, like a separate box?
There
or do they have
isn't.
to just include it in their listing?
It's just in the listing,
Okay.
like it's usually at the bottom of the description, the about or something like that, I can't remember, I can look it up and let you know.
I was curious.
So we're still talking about the notes here at the end.
Yes,
So it says something about grandfather in existing STR.
yeah,
We're not gonna do that, are we?
I think we need to, because we need to give people a little bit of time to get their GAT license, because that takes time.
Yeah,
And we don't want people to not be able to have, if they already have an existing Airbnb, I don't want to put them out of business.
No, that's not what I'm trying to say.
Oh.
The way we word it needs to make it clear that you still need to get one after you get your ducks in a row.
yeah, so you give them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, when you say grandfather, that means you don't have to do any.
Yeah, you're.
Oh, no, we're,
doesn't it say, yeah,
we're saying that they have time, I think, doesn't it always say, the language is owners of STRs that are already renting on the date of passage of this resolution will have 30 days to notify Richland County that they are currently operating an STR and will come into compliance with this ordinance by, and we'll just insert a date, like 1 year from the date it's approved.
Yeah,
So it's not gonna say grandfather, that's the.
wait,
language
take
we're
out,
saying.
it does say grandfather up above, why don't we?
Well, that was
say
just me.
language?
That was a note to myself. Yeah.
To exist.
So the language we would add is where it starts with owners.
Yeah,
Current owners of, or current owners operating short-term rentals within the county, however, but that, yeah, so that language.
yeah,
would
that has
go-
to change, all right.
Would go, probably should go in its own section, huh?
Mhm.
Because that'll only be good for the year after this
Yes.
is, and then that language will literally expire a year from when the ordinance is passed.
Yeah.
And after that, everyone who isn't in compliance is in violation.
And then you've got to note that the applications expire the same month each year. I'm assuming that's what we want to do. So even if they start, if they expire at the end of June and they apply not July 1st, but let's say September 1st, it's still.
It's still June 30th.
It's good for not quite 2 years because we didn't start July 1st.
Yeah.
Right, and we did take that thing, if they did April, that it is okay if they apply in April for the whole 2
We
years.
do have that language in there. correct?
Yeah,
Yeah, so they kind of get that.
they get something, right.
Are we done?
We are.
Yeah, for
I don't believe it. I may walk through every,
On your license number thing, displaying that license number.
You want me to, I don't have the language in here.
Oh,
I
good.
just said add language about.
Yeah.
license.
Yeah.
So on 3, and I don't know if you want to go make it 5, you know.
Just add that language right in there.
Make it its own bullet point, something like
Yep.
applicant is required to
yeah, we
display.
did.
Shall comply with all the following. Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll put it
We didn't
there.
know what seller's permit.
So it would be after the parking
Yeah,
language,
Okay.
right?
yeah.
Maybe you
Yeah,
would,
so maybe
it's
it's
up
there.
above you.
Yeah, so add,
Um,
I'll add language.
It's right, I mean.
I mean, I kind of roughly made something up. I don't know if you like my language or not.
Sure, hold on 1 second. I can't type right. There you go. They like that?
1 minute.
Okay, go ahead.
I said applicant is required to display the county permit number on any advertisement, including web-based. You might wordsmith a little bit.
Applicant is required to display license number on any,
County permit license number.
yep.
Does that cover that? You wanna say?
I think I'm gonna ask.
Okay, 'cause we weren't sure about this.
Advertising or online.
Well, I just said any advertisement, so that.
Do you consider Airbnb to be an advertisement?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I mean, as long as people don't think they can get away with it, because Airbnb is not that.
say.
Sure, it's advertising, it's like at your website on the county website or,
Online reservation system,
yeah.
that would capture everything,
Yeah.
VRBO,
Yeah.
Slam Camp, all those.
Social media, you could.
Yeah.
You put it on Facebook and
Yeah.
that kind of thing is down on. the-
Yeah, and all the websites of the chambers and everything.
Yep.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
I have a,
Ms. Porpella sat through all this wordsmithing. Maybe we should have a brief public comment period.
yes, I think you, go ahead.
well, I'm sorry, wait.
You guys-
Do you have any comments?
Oh, well, I have one quick question. I just asked Linda here. This is on the Hillsborough one. It says a valid Wisconsin Department of Revenue seller's permit in the names of the property owner. And she showed me where in yours it has that. And then she said that you had some questions
We
about.
do still have questions about that.
It was 3B2.
We just discussed that today,
Yeah,
a little bit.
we didn't quite know what that meant.
So a seller's permit, anytime you charge people money for things,
Right.
if it's not your, not a part of your employment.
It's sales tax.
Oh, it's a sales.
Seller's. permit.
I get it.
Right, it's for sales tax.
So everyone should have one already. This is not anything that is.
Not necessarily. Because we don't,
Uh-huh.
because we don't need one.
Because
Because Airbnb collects both the room tax and the sales tax for us.
that's true.
And they remit it to the state and
Oh.
they remit the room tax.
So why don't we just change the language to if necessary?
Well, it does say that here, it says unless all rentals of the property are exempt from such permit requirement per state regulations.
Yeah, well, we're not exempt from collecting.
We're still
the
collecting the
tax,
tax, it's just that
But the
Airbnb
third
doesn't
party
want.
Yeah, that's a good
is doing
point.
it for us.
I doesn't understand.
Why don't we just strike that whole thing?
Why do we
No,
care?
we need it.
Talking about that.
We're not the ones that would enforce that anyway. I mean, if they're not, the state's gonna have to enforce that. We wouldn't be
Yeah.
enforcing that, so I'm okay with
Take out
leaving
that
it.
whole seller's permit thing. My
What,
opinion.
can someone remind me where exactly where it is again?
It's under 3B2.
Yes. We talked before about why do we care, why should we should.
Oh,
that out in the-
Yeah, we talked a lot about that.
In the past.
I'm just gonna delete it then.
I typed one and then she gave me one after I did it. And hers was better, sometimes it doesn't line up right in Word.
Okay, I needed a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, motion by Fleming, second by Carol. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye,
Aye.
thank you for doing
Opposed?
this.
All
I
right.
think it's great that we got this done. I know, unbelievable.